Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So it's that time of year again where I sit down and go through my most anticipated books for next year. So these are all books that are releasing within the first half of 2024, so between January and June. At some point over next summer I'll go through my most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, but a lot of them haven't been announced yet, so that's a problem for future me. But we have a mix of different genres within this list, mostly thrillers, fantasy and romance, because those are the genres that I tend to read from the most. I'll leave timestamps in the description just in case you would like to skip around, but there are a lot of books that I need to go through in this video, so I'm going to stop rambling and we're going to kick things off with January's releases. So I haven't included House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas on this list because while I will probably read it, I don't think I'm really anticipating it because I wasn't the biggest fan of book 2 in the Crescent City series. But that is coming out in January and I'm expecting it to be very popular. Anyway, starting the actual list, and first we have Come and Get It by Reid. So this is the same author who wrote Such a Fun Age, which I think came out in 2020, so a while ago now, and I did enjoy Such a Fun Age. I can remember liking the writing, so I've been interested to see what this author comes out with next. But this is apparently about a residential assistant and her messy entanglement with a professor and 3 unruly students. So not sure what to make of that, but it says it's a tension-filled story about money, indiscretion and bad behaviour. So I'm expecting this to have a bunch of unlikable characters and very little plot, but I'm okay with that. Next up we have Bride by Ali Hazelwood, which is a paranormal romance between a vampire bride and an alpha werewolf. Really intrigued about this one because it's something a bit new and different from Ali Hazelwood. I did really enjoy Love Theoretically that I read earlier this year, but her books have been a little bit hit or miss because I really didn't like Love on the Brain. Excited that this is something a little bit different, and I haven't read much paranormal romance within the last few years. Honestly, I don't think I've read a paranormal romance since Twilight. So it's going to be interesting to see what I think of it. Tia Williams also has a new book coming out next year. It's called A Love Song for Ricki Wilde. It comes out in February, which is really exciting because I'm going to New York in February and this is set in New York, so maybe I should buy it and read it in New York. But this is about the daughter of a powerful Atlanta dynasty who leaves her family behind and moves to Harlem and fulfills her dream of opening a flower shop. If it's anything like 7 Days in June, then I'm also expecting it to have a very deep and emotional romance. So very excited for this one. Another romance book releasing in February is The Catch by Amy Lea, which is the third and possibly the final book in the Influencer trilogy, which is a series of companion novels. I've read the first 2 books and I liked the first book. It wasn't my favourite, but I really enjoyed, what was it called? X's and O's, which I read a few months ago. And this is also following a main character who's an influencer. I think she's a fashion influencer, and she finds herself in a rural fishing village on the east coast of Canada, where the only thing scarier than nature itself is the burly and bearded bed and breakfast owner and fisherman, Evan Whaler. Is his name really Whaler? Sounds a little bit like It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, which is a book that I liked but didn't love. However, I did love the concept. It sounds like this is going to be another Grumpy Sunshine romance. And yeah, is it a fake dating as well? I'm already sold. So it turns out there's a lot of romance books coming out in February, which I guess makes sense considering that Valentine's Day is in February. But next up we have How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly, which is a companion novel to Something Wild and Wonderful, and also Love and Other Disasters, I think the first book is called. I haven't actually read the first book, but I did read Something Wild and Wonderful recently and it was wonderful. One of my favourite romance books of this year, and I'm excited for this one. It's a sapphic workplace rom-com set in the world of high school basketball, and I think the two main characters are the high school basketball coach and the foster parent of one of the players. It seems like one of the characters is doubting her ability as a basketball coach, and the other main character is struggling with dating, and so I think they might start off as friends and then it develops into something more, but very excited to see what I think of this. Sounds like it might be a little bit emotional, which I shouldn't be surprised about because Something Wild and Wonderful made me cry. Sangu Mandanna also has a new book coming out in 2024. I think it comes out in April. It's A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which I'm not sure if it's a companion novel to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, but it seems like it's another cozy witchy romance book. I think it also has Grumpy Sunshine, which I loved in The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It's about a witch called Sarah. I think that's how you pronounce the main character's name, but she was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. However, she lost her powers, but she's now found an old spell book that could hold the secret to restoring her power, and she finds herself asking this guy for help. Apparently it's also a second chance romance because they happen to have had a one-night stand years ago, but that's totally irrelevant. I'm assuming she also opens an inn at some point, which makes me think of Legends and Lattes, or the prequel, which I haven't actually read yet, but it gives me that cozy fantasy feeling, which I love. It's something that I really enjoy. Next up we have a thriller, and that is The Stranger in Her House by John Marrs. So John Marrs is an author who I've read quite a few books from, and I really love The One by him. It's one of my favourite thrillers of all time, but I've read a few of his books this year and not enjoyed them as much, so I don't know whether to pick this one up, but it does sound quite sinister. It's about this guy called Paul who works for a charity, or he's sent by this charity that helps out vulnerable people. It seems like our main character is called Gwen, and she is the daughter of this woman who this guy has been sent to help out with doing odd jobs around the house. And this main character is a little bit suspicious of this guy. She doesn't like the way that he's infiltrated her mother's life, and she begins to suspect that he's trying to push her out completely. Interested to see what I think of this. It sounds a little bit, not completely, but it does remind me of The Good Samaritan by John Marrs, which I read earlier this year. That's also about a main character who is awful and who is preying on vulnerable people, and it was really uncomfortable to read, so maybe this one is going to be like similar. Next up we have Murder Road by Simone St. James, who is the author of The Sundown Motel. One of my favourite books, was it of 2021? I can't remember if it was actually a favourite book of the year officially, but I do remember giving it 5 stars. Really loved the creepy, ghostly atmosphere, and I'm hoping for something similar from this book. It sounds like it's going to be good. It's about a young couple who find themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road. So it's set in 1995, and this couple have taken a wrong turn somewhere, and they're looking for this small town where they're going to be spending their honeymoon, and they pick up a hitchhiker along the way, and it turns out that this hitchhiker is injured in some way and dies when they take them to the local hospital, and this couple ends up being accused of this murder and also a string of unexplained murders that have been happening along this lane. So sounds like it's going to be really tense. I need to read more from this author because I did really enjoy The Sundown Motel, and I've heard good things about Simone St. James's other books. Next up we have An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, who is the author that wrote A Dowry of Blood, one of my favourite books of 2022, and this sounds like it's going to be another gothic vampire story. It says here that it's a dark academia tale of blood, secrets and insatiable hunger. I think it's either a retelling or it's inspired by Camilla, which I believe is one of the earliest vampire stories on record. I haven't read it, so I might have that wrong, but it sounds like this is going to have a sapphic romance and an academic setting, so sounds really good. I'm hoping that this is as good as it sounds. I have a feeling this next book is going to be quite popular next year, but in April, The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo is coming out, and I have pre-ordered this. I'm planning on reading it as soon as it arrives, but I don't know what I'm going to think about it. I like the idea of a historical fantasy set in Spain, but I haven't really enjoyed the last few Leigh Bardugo books that I've read, and it's such a shame because I used to say that she's one of my favourite authors. She's the author that got me back into reading fantasy as an adult with the Grishaverse, but I hated Hellbent when I read it earlier this year, and I also wasn't that impressed with The King of Scars duology. I don't know whether it's me and I'm just falling out of love with her writing, but yeah, this does sound like something a little bit different, and I think it's a standalone as well. Next up we have One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole, which comes out in April, and this is a thriller which I'm excited about. I only heard about this recently. I didn't know that Alyssa Cole was writing another thriller, but I really liked When No One Is Watching, which I read a couple of years ago. It's not a perfect book. It was really tense and suspenseful right up until the end. I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending, but oh my goodness, I can still feel how on edge I felt while reading that book. So I have high hopes for this one. It says here that it's about the new caretaker of a historic estate who finds herself trapped on an island with a murderer and the ghosts of her past. So it has an isolated setting, which is something that I enjoy. It seems like it might also have mental health rep because our main character was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. So we're interested to see what I think of this. I like that it's 350 pages because I feel like that's a good length for a thriller, and I feel like When No One Is Watching was too short, and that's why it wasn't quite 5 stars for me, but this could have potential. Funny Story by Emily Henry also comes out next year. It's coming out in April, and I probably will pick this up, but I want to see what reviews say first because I have had such mixed experiences with Emily Henry's books in the past. I loved Beach Read, and then People We Meet on Vacation I thought was good, but not as good as Beach Read, and then Book Lovers I didn't really like that much. I was really underwhelmed. Then I picked up Happy Place earlier this year and loved it, so I don't trust myself to be able to judge beforehand without seeing reviews whether I'm gonna like an Emily Henry book, but this does sound good. What's it about again? I feel like I heard the synopsis for this a while ago and I've just completely forgotten, but this is following Daphne, who had a fiance, Peter, but they broke up when she found out that he's actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra, and now Daphne, I think, runs into Petra's ex. So I think it's a romance between our main character and her ex's new girlfriend's ex. Sounds really messy, but I'm here for it. I think this could be a good time. This next one I only heard about recently, but apparently Ruth Ware has a new book scheduled to come out in May. It's called One Perfect Couple, and it sounds really good. Apparently it's inspired by the classic And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which I still haven't read, but I know the whole concept of people trapped in an isolated setting while a killer stalks among them. And this is about a couple who sign up for a new reality TV show. I think they're sent to this island with 4 other couples and they become trapped because there's a storm. It sounds really good. I have read all of Ruth Ware's books now, so I'm gonna continue to pick up her books because generally, even if I don't love her books, I still enjoy reading them. Ruth Ware is the queen of writing atmosphere and tension, so you know I'm gonna drop everything and read this as soon as it comes out. The final book on my list is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, which I am excited but also nervous about because I'm always excited but nervous for Riley Sager's books. I'm gonna pick it up no matter what because even when I haven't enjoyed his books in the past, I've still had a good time reading them and they're still compulsively readable and entertaining. I'm just hoping that this is good. It's actually the first of his books to have a male protagonist, which I'm really interested in. Just realised I never actually told you what it's about, but I think it's set in this picture perfect neighbourhood where dark secrets are lurking. That's all I need to know. I'm gonna go in with an open mind and hopefully it becomes my new favourite Riley Sager, but we'll see. So that does bring me to the end of this video. Let me know in the comments if you're excited for any of these books or if there's any books that are coming out next year that you're excited for that I've missed. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.